Hello, welcome back. This is Professor Marsh, and this is the Personal Exemptions lecture. This is topic number 4 in our materials, and I am recording it in a remote location. I am going to begin by talking a little bit about the filing status that we discussed last time. I'm sorry, filing status was number 4, exemptions are number 5. In the filing status materials that we discussed, I forgot to mention that if you're following along with publication 6744, which are the examinations, if you're taking the basic or the advanced test for certification, question number 1 involves filing status. And if you're taking the basic test, question 21 and question 26 also involve filing status. If you're taking the advanced test, question 1 and question 30 involve filing status. And what you'll see for question 1 is you'll see a straightforward question like you'd see on an exam. For the other questions, for both the basic test and the advanced test, you're going to see that question as part of a larger question that involves a case study and using the TaxSlayer software. So in any event, keep that in mind, and let's go on to exemptions. So the first thing that I'd like to look at for personal exemptions is I'm going to look at the PowerPoint slides that are available at the Link and Learn materials, and I will go through the PowerPoint slides for personal exemptions. This is a short topic, and we do go through it even though personal exemptions used to be an additional amount that you could reduce your income by. That was eliminated by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act back in 2017 for the years 2018 through 2025. However, if depending upon whether you are eligible for a personal exemption, can affect the tax benefits that you have. And the first slide just shows you the Form 1040, and right after the filing status and the question about whether you have any interest in virtual currency, cryptocurrency. There are some questions about standard deductions, and those are the questions that we're going to answer in the intake material. So what we'll do with personal exemptions is we'll look through the information in the Form 1040 in the IRS publications, and then also take a look at the Form 13614, our intake form, to enter it in our basic information section in TaxSlayer. Okay, so I'm now on slide number 3, the objectives and personal exemptions. We want to be able to distinguish between a personal and a dependency exemption, and also determine if the taxpayer can claim a personal exemption. And that is, you can see here the information about the intake, and question number 10, which is on the both the tax form and also our intake form, the 13614. You see question number 10, can anyone claim you or your spouse as a dependent? That's very important to this determination. And then there's also questions about whether or not you were totally and permanently disabled, and also for your spouse. So let's take a look at this. So I'm going to jump ahead to slide number 5. And an exemption is a dollar amount that can be deducted from an individual's total income, reducing the taxable income. But that was suspended by, as I mentioned, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act for the time that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was enacted, which is 2018 to 2025. And we'll see how it nonetheless affects tax benefits. And let's go on to slide number 6. And we're talking about personal exemptions for both the taxpayer and the spouse. And dependency exemptions are exemptions for qualified dependents. So a spouse cannot be a qualified dependent for the other. The question is really, as far as claiming a personal exemption, can someone else claim you as a dependent? Can someone else claim the taxpayer as a dependent? Okay, on page number 7, the 7th slide in the PowerPoint presentation is that question. And you can see on the form 13614C, can anyone claim you or your spouse as a dependent on their tax return? And the answer has to be no in order to claim the personal exemption. And additional resources to study on this are publication 4012. And you can see the tab Overview of Rules for Claiming a Dependent, and there's a hot link to that. And then on the Interactive Tax Assistant, Personal and Spousehold Exemptions, and there's a hot link to that as well. Okay, so entering personal exemptions, you can see where it's entered on the tax return. That's highlighted in yellow on slide number 8. And you can see that's the line that's just below the question about virtual currency. And, someone can claim you as a dependent, your spouse as a dependent. So if you check, either of those boxes, then that is going to affect the amount of your standard deduction quite significantly. And then there's also a question about whether the spouse itemizes on a separate return or you were a dual status alien. And so that's also going to affect that as well. And then there's a summary. Taxpayers can claim a personal exemption for themselves if they may not be claimed as another taxpayer's dependent, and their spouse if filing jointly, and the spouse may not be another taxpayer's dependent. So that's the presentation, short and sweet. In the materials that we have the slides, the PowerPoint slides. Now let's go to the personal exemptions workout and take a look at that. So if you go into the VITA and TCE Central and go to the personal exemptions workout, you'll see this is a short workout. It's only 8 pages, and it begins with a discussion of publication 4491. And you can see these various exemptions lessons, and you can click and do the lesson. So, you should definitely do that. So, exemptions lessons from publication 4491. It's only 2 pages long. So, if you click on that hot link and just take a look at it, that takes you through some examples and gives you some experience on that. Then you can see that the intake interview and quality review sheet, the 13614C, there on line 10 has that question, can anyone claim you or your spouse as a dependent? I'm on page 2 of the workout, and you can see that question highlighted with the little yellow box, and yes, no, or unsure. So if you're unsure, there are some aids to assist you in becoming sure. Then there's the personal exemption job aids from publication 4012. And so that will help you determine taxpayers' filing requirements, and it'll give you a link to the overall overview of the rules for claiming a dependent. You can click on that link as well. Then you have some case studies. And so the first case study you have involves Ray Jackson and whether or not it can be claimed as a dependent by his parents. You can read the rules again. You can also listen to the conversation and read the transcript. I will tell you, on my computer, I tried to listen to the audio and was unable to get it to play. I tried with my headphones here and was unable to get it to play even with the headphones. So you may just have to read the transcript if your computer is like mine, or perhaps you can get yours to play. But in any event, I was unable to hear the voice of Ray Jackson and the person who was the VITA volunteer interviewing him. But suffice it to say that if you look at the materials and read them, and based on the information, I'm going now ahead to page 5. Can Ray claim a personal exemption for himself? And the answer to this would be no, because he was essentially a full-time student. He was treated as living at home because of his temporary living on campus, and his parents provided over half his support. So they were able to claim him, and so since he can be claimed by his parents, even if they chose not to claim him, he would still be ineligible for a personal exemption. Okay, so then you've got a certification warm-up question. That is on page 6. You see the example of Melvin, a single 20-year-old full-time student who works part-time. During the interview, you learn that Melvin's only income was $6,400 in wages. He lived with his parents all year, and they provided more than half his support, but they won't claim as a dependent, so he sounds a lot like Ray. And you go through the 4 choices for exemptions, and probably the best thing to do is to take this question as a warm-up and see if you get the correct answer. But even if you get the correct answer the first time, just read through all the different choices. Click on each of the buttons. There's no penalty for doing this. This is all free practice. And look at the reasons why each answer is either correct or incorrect. And that will help you learn from this. And then there's a certification warm-up drill and practice, and you can see the 3 questions. Can a married taxpayer claim their spouse as a dependent? Martin and Regina were married until their divorce in November of the year. Can they take the exemption for each other since they were married for most of the year? And Alan can be claimed as a dependent on his mother's tax return, but his mother is not claiming as a dependent. Can Alan claim his personal exemption on his own tax return? And I would just, I have a very negative feeling toward all these questions, but go ahead and click on the answers that you think are correct, and whether you get them correct or incorrect. Again, click on the wrong answers if you got them right, or on the right answers if you got them wrong, and just practice learning these rules. And then on page 8 of the workout, there's a link to the appropriate parts of the tax layer training video, and go ahead and get in there and practice on that. So that's the personal exemptions workout. And when I read the questions on form 6744, I didn't notice any questions about exemptions, but there were questions about dependents. Question 23 on the basic test, and question 9 on the advanced test. And so what you know about exemptions may come in to play in answering those questions about dependents when you take your certification exam. So keep those in mind. And with that, the next topic will be on dependents. That'll be topic number 6 in the workouts and the other training material. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.